You good? Okay. Thanks for being here. Thank you for working with us schedule-wise. We're on Wednesday instead of Tuesday. We were over in Tallahassee, which, as I was explaining, we had our youth council, City of Pensacola Youth Council, also in Tallahassee at the same time, and explaining to them that I really look at getting over there and advocating as a primary responsibility of this job. So this is my third trip to Tallahassee in the last 40 days, and really talking not only as a new mayor, getting acclimated and getting to know a lot of the secretaries of all these important state departments that we deal with all the time. So not only familiarizing myself with those people, but also, of course, advocating for things that you guys have asked me about and that we've talked about. Between projects like the Center for Maritime Excellence, the CDBG infrastructure. We're over there, having lots of meetings and trying to make sure that we're not forgotten about in Northwest Florida and in the Central Time Zone. I think that's a unique challenge that the City of Pensacola and anyone leading the city, the county, the region is always going to have. We're a big state, and the vast majority of the folks live in another part of the state. So that's why I think uniquely here in Pensacola, getting down to Tallahassee and advocating more than most is a requirement. I mean, to really be able to make sure that we're able to punch above our weight class, so to speak, and make sure that we're not lost in the shuffle behind Miami and Orlando and Tampa and everybody else. And our delegation does a great job of ensuring that as well. And especially I was able to spend some time with Senator Broxson, who's been amazing for us and a big advocate for us to help us make sure that we're sharing our story and talking to the right people. So another great trip down there. So I appreciate you working with me on schedule. We'll get through just some of our news and notes, and then I'll take any questions that you have. Our street sweeper naming contest is off and running. We've received over 500 submissions. Each of those submissions has 3 names on it. So we've received over 1,500 names so far. So I know Dominique and Casey have a lot to do coming up. If you have any volunteers who can start reading through names, let us know. Friday, April 14th at 5 o'clock is the deadline for that. So we've been really pleased with all of the ideas and all the creativity coming from our Pensacola residents. I want to kind of reset on just to make sure we're all clear on the welcome sign call for artists. You remember we had announced the welcome sign coming off of the 3 Mile Bridge, that we were going to have a call for artists, call for their ideas on what that sign that 100,000 people are going to see every day. We left some ambiguity, so I want to make sure we clarify on a couple things. One is one of the questions we had received was, will the artists be compensated? The answer is yes. Being someone in my private business world that we spent a lot of time and effort and energy on large scale art. We want to make sure that we are respecting people's time, their livelihood, and so absolutely, just to clarify, we will. The city will be compensating the artists, the winning artists, for their project. Now, we can't give a scope or a range because there's such a wide scope of what the scale of the project. It could be 2D, could be 3D, could be different sizes. So we don't want to say, hey, it's going to be between this dollar amount and this dollar amount. What it'll be is as once we have finalists, that'll be part of the filtering process. So we'll be able to set expectations with those artists before we move too far forward outside of their idea, and make sure that whether we do that off of a percentage of the cost of the project, remains to be seen. But the city will be compensating the selected artist. Also, another thing we wanted to add from our initial announcement was Thursday, April 13th, so a week from tomorrow at 9 a.m. in this room, we're going to have an interest meeting. We would normally call it a pre-bid meeting. This isn't a bid. It's kind of a pre-proposal meeting. And we just wanted to make sure we were providing kind of a one-stop shop for any artist interested. It is a potentially large project, and so we wanted to make sure that there was as much accessibility as possible to anyone who is interested. So if they have, we sent out a lot of documentation. Our team has worked hard on that. There's a lot of moving parts to state roads and FDOT and local, and we knew it would be much more complex than just picking something, but we thought it was worth it. And so the deadline is April 26th. So this meeting is Thursday, April 13th at 9 a.m. So if you'll please spread the word to the artist community, art community, who is interested on that. They should be able to have their questions answered from a engineering standpoint to any questions we can answer. From an engineering standpoint, a contest standpoint, all of those different things. So those are just two important things we want to make sure that we didn't have any ambiguity around. Good Friday again, this Friday, other than Osceola Golf Course and Roger Scott Tennis Center, all the city facilities will be closed, but it will not impact the sanitation schedule. So everything will remain on schedule in terms of garbage pickup. I have a next town hall will be with District 6 and Allison Patton, Wednesday, April 12th at 5:30 at Bayview Community Center. So that will be our next one, Wednesday, April 12th at 5:30. We have a rescheduled ribbon cutting that is tomorrow at 10 a.m. For the Kiwanis Park Musical Sensory Garden that we had it previously and had some rough weather, and so we have moved that to tomorrow at 10 a.m. All right, facilities update. We don't have a lot of detailed outcome dates yet, but just so you know that I want to let you know that we continue obviously between City Hall, Malcolm Young, and then as you heard last week, Fire Station 4, that we have moved those up to high priority items to make sure that we get all the necessary assessments with those projects. I think we can all agree. When I think Rick asked me on the radio, about this, and I said, we as a city we got to look in the mirror, and we've got aging, old buildings, old infrastructure, and so I'm glad that our team, our public works facilities team, we're taking it head on. Our fire, and that's not easy. There's a lot of adjustments that need to be made, but the other option is to turn our head, and that's not an option. So we're going to continue to make sure that we're providing, the quality facilities for our employees, and in the case our leaseholders, our residents, and so we're taking this seriously, and it's never fun to have to temporarily close a facility, a park. That's not, you don't sign up as the mayor because you get excited about closing down things that are amenities for employees or residents. But again, it's not all of this is fun. These are things that are necessary. And so I appreciate our team. So no exact dates, but with any between the assessments across all of those facilities are either about to be underway or are underway and have been heavily prioritized. So more to come, and probably by next week we'll be able to give you a little bit more concrete completion dates on those specific projects. But if you have any more questions, I'll attempt to answer those for you about those facilities here in just a second. And then last thing, we are finalizing right now. We were trying to have it done today, but we're finalizing right now the Bruce Beach stormwater bacteria testing update. But it's taken us a little longer because there's several, between ourselves, ECUA, DEP. We're just making sure that the release that we get to you, everybody is seen and make sure that we're communicating it correctly. So, what I can tell you is that we received results from the additional stormwater bacteria testing, and it wasn't showing any elevated bacteria levels. So, what I'd say is, for the most part, the news is good news. But as I said, I don't want to speak. I want to make sure that when there's multiple organizations involved who are the experts in this field, we want to make sure that we're communicating it accurately and correctly. So more to come on that, and that should be in pretty short order. I would imagine in the next day or two you'll be hearing from our office on some more specifics as it pertains to that. So That is it on my list. And here for any questions that you got. Yeah.
Mayor, while you were over in Tallahassee, did you get any insights into how the new Live Local Act is going to impact the city's efforts in attainable housing? It seems to be, having read through it, it seems to be packed with a lot of the issues that the city's been dealing with. Hundreds of millions of dollars now allocated to the two big programs, exemptions from zoning requirements if a developer brings in affordable housing, some percentage.
Sure.
And also, there was a third element in there having to do with the ability of the city to quickly provide these surplus properties, to make them available in rapid order to people who are asking for them.
Yeah.
I know that you've been working in all three of those areas. So what are you hearing in Tallahassee?
Yeah, look, Senate Bill 102, here's what we can all agree on is we know it's a need, and it's why it was the highest priority for Senator Pasadomo to the Senate President to get that across the line. Now, obviously, we're going to learn a lot between today and July 1st in terms of when the rulemaking happens with Florida Housing Finance. I was able to meet with the director and the deputy director of Florida Housing Finance yesterday, and we talked a lot about kind of a lot of the questions. You know, we're looking forward to peeling back the onion, so to speak, on what all of those details will be, because those haven't been clarified other than the kind of the high notes of what the intent exactly. So, you know, what kind of AMI, how's that going to be measured? What kind of, all the nuance will be coming out here, over the next few months. So I think it's a good philosophical step because, as you said, these are alignments of things that we know we need to focus on. I mean, of course, what you're looking at the local level is what's going to preempt you as well. What are the things that are in the state bill that, whether we would agree with it exactly or not, we wouldn't have a choice. So anytime you're at the local government level, you're always, have a little anxiety about what is going to, what is going to be, told to the city of Pensacola that they have to do it this exact way. But nonetheless, we all realize it's a problem across the entire state. I was sharing with many folks, including Florida Housing in Tallahassee, that, if we all have an affordable, attainable housing issue, one of our unique needs that we have here in the city is military housing. Is that we've got tens of thousands of sailors. So we all have different versions of this issue, I would say, probably all 67 counties in some fashion. But I think that military connection actually will be, a pro for us in terms of being able to get some of these dollars and get some of these projects. So, we're looking at a lot of different things. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversation about Baptist Hospital and, the potential generational impact that could have. That has come up in conversation in Tallahassee as well. And something that, certainly we're going to be keeping a close eye on or potentially, could partner with if it made sense for us. So, I think it's a good thing. We know that this is one of our major issues, and now we just got to kind of wait and see what those details are. So, and no one really has those exact answers yet. So I think over the next couple of months, through April and May, when we start to hear details, my goal and for our administration and for me personally is to make sure that whatever it says, that we're ready to go. And whatever we think is the best tact for the city, once we see what those rules are, that we get aggressive about and play offense, whether it's properties, whether it's how, re-looking at things like Maritime Park, things like, what happens now that these are, carrots that are out in front of private development to help us with affordable housing. I think that's going to kind of restack the deck on a lot of different things, just because of what those incentives are and how that kind of changes the landscape of private development. So we're going to be ready to go. And so even though we may not have an exact say on every nuance of it, we're going to make sure that we're proactive in making sure that it's good things for the city.
Does the preemption of this local commercial zoning concern you more or less at this point?
Yeah. I would say less at this point, just because we don't know, what other details, what asterisks are going to come with that. Right now, it's just written in in generics to say, hey, different types of zoning would be able to be used. Hey, there might be situations where that makes a lot of sense for us. You can't assume that changing the zoning would necessarily be a bad thing. So, I probably don't have a strong opinion on that until we really know, what every piece of detail around any potential zoning changes would be. And again, so it's not, we just got to have the details to be able to really say, hey, this part of the 102 works for us, or we're worried about this other part. Yeah.
Wanted to ask about a piece of property that's at the port where a boat building company used to be.
Uh-huh.
Left. The question would be, is the city looking into, does the city own it? If not, would they be having to pay to own the facility? And is that a way of trying to attract a new business into that spot?
Yeah, so you're referring to Warehouse 10, the streamlined boat. Yeah, and that's on our port, certainly, yeah, our property. But we talk about reshuffling and let's go out and find the highest and best use for a piece of property that's been stagnant for beyond this lease. Really, we've had a couple leases where we haven't really been able to get something stood up. So I'm really excited about the potential future of that. What happens with the Center for Maritime Excellence. We're starting to move forward. Our team, both at the port, Erica and Economic Development, have been working really hard on Job Growth Grant Fund applications as well as Triumph applications for the Center for Maritime Excellence. Obviously, that's a consideration, is do we, instead of building something new, do we look at now with an available warehouse, do we look at a reuse where, there's concrete poured and there's a structure there that's going to certainly make that project cost go down. So, we're in position really for the month of April, and now we've got a lot of our due diligence done to start really running it out there for the center, for of course potentially housing American Magic, and that's been a high priority for us. And to this point, before the lease was ended, obviously we aren't going to consider a building that someone else has a lease on, but now that building's open. It would be very logical and pragmatic of us to say, well, instead of proposing a new facility with the construction costs the way that they are today, probably makes more sense to look at a building that already has some infrastructure in place that, could save us millions of dollars, and as well as time, time is of the essence to have someone in that building paying rent and adding to the economic development of our community. So I look forward to the potential future of that facility, be it American Magic or be it something else. But I'm excited to start with a fresh canvas there and get that out and market it into its highest and best use.
What is the timeline on that, you think, as far as marketing and getting clear, solid idea of what we'll see there?
Well, again, because of the timing of what's in front of us with Center for Maritime Excellence, I would think we would start there, in terms of saying, hey, we've already got a proposed idea. We have a tenant who wants to be on our port, that we want on our port. That seems to make a lot of synergistic sense to say, well, why not? Would this building work? So it seems that it could, in terms of the space. And as we said, we're ready, at this point to move forward with 2 grant applications, one being Triumph for the Center for Maritime Excellence, as well as the Job Growth Grant Fund through the Department of Economic Opportunity. And I met with Secretary Ivey, Adam, her chief of staff, and several of the DEO members when I was in Tallahassee. And I had that meeting Monday afternoon to talk about this project as well as the CDBG project that's running through DEO. So we've got a lot of interest with DEO potential applications right now. So we're moving forward, and I think I would say that would be the primary focus for Warehouse 10 in our crosshairs right now. If for some reason that doesn't work out, or that doesn't end up making sense for us, then of course we would go kind of back to the drawing board and market that in a more general way. But that's the way we're looking at this point.
What's the CDBG project?
Sorry, the infrastructure, the 3 proposals, Hollis T. Williams. Yeah, so those proposals, run through that, and there's several buckets that are also coming that will be part of that same initiative. But the Hollis T. Williams Fricker Center and the port that we had proposed, and those run through DEO. So, and I explained to them, Hollis T. Williams is has a $32 million price tag, and I said I let them know that, to give them perspective, that's about half of our general fund. And when you talk about a transformational project, this is something that could reconnect a lost neighborhood that so many interstates decades ago cut through underserved communities, typically minority communities. So not only does it have the chance to do that, but it has a chance to transform our downtown. And so I let them know that and it's a scoring rubric at the end of the day, but I let them know that if that's a project that the city and really, I mean, we're in Escambia County. It's a city and county project that we've both spent time on over the years, and just haven't been able to get it over the line. So we feel really good about the potential of that project, and as we know, a $32 million addition to our downtown, and to reconnect a neighborhood, and to really, again, I mean, I explained to them, would be a transcendent, project that we would never be able to take on our own, and so really looking forward and crossing our fingers, and seeing how they stack up whenever they're all due. I think they had extended the deadline. I may have that wrong. I know the deadline is in April. I thought it was April 4th yesterday, but I think they may have extended a few days. But so we'll see how that goes. But I had a conversation, of course, with them on that as well. Yeah.
Mayor, I noticed the site drawing for the welcome sign that was handed out last week was done by Scott Salas's company.
Mm-hmm.
What role does Salas Architects have in this right now, and what's the value of his arrangement with the city? And
Sure.
Can you kind of give us a history of how this came to this point?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll give you as much as I can. Some of that started before I took office, some of those conversations. But Mayor Robinson had engaged with Dalrymple Salas to potentially design the entire sign, or give us a few options for the sign. And when I got into office, this was a preference of mine to say, hey, let's see how we can better engage the community. And to their credit, they've adapted and worked with us on that. They remember, when it's a city project on a state road, there's a lot of complexity that and that's why I say it really predated me pretty significantly, just even in the logistics of having them involved in an FDOT project, in terms of clerical, who can reimburse who can pay who. So there were some hoops to jump through with that. So how we've adapted it is, we still need that expertise, they were able to develop ultimately what I call the template, what's the structure that this project is going to go on. We didn't want to leave that, because that's such an important element, how big it is, making sure that it isn't going to fall down, all of those different things that an artist may not be looking at. They're going to be looking at the actual, what you see. We wanted to make sure that we had a good, clean plan foundationally. So that's how they've adapted. They've been great to work with us. And again, this has kind of been a long road by no one's fault. Just, it's trying to get, this project up and moving, and so that's their role, in it. And so no, we're really appreciative. I mean, we've gotten it. There's been a lot.
Who is their customer? Is it the city or FDOT?
Well, I'll have, to make sure that we're accurate on that, I'll have Amy Tootle or David connect with you after this. But FDOT reimbursed the city to replace the old pavilion, and this FDOT had given the city, to say, hey, here's this pool of money for instead of us coming and designing something that may not have the personality of the community, or something like that. That they, and I'm going to oversimplify, but ultimately they worked with us to say, here's a pool of money for the replacement of that pavilion, since we needed to do that for the construction. So from that point, technically speaking, I'll defer to them on where does the check come from FDOT that's reimbursed, or is that from the city? I'm not sure how because those things can be complex, but more complex than I imagined. So but we can get a clear answer for you exactly on that. Yeah.
Next week at the planning board meeting, the mayor's office is sponsoring an item on allowing food truck courts in commercial zoning areas. Can you talk about kind of the idea behind that, what you're hoping to get out of it?
Yeah, sure. Again, another project David and Sherry and Leslie in planning have been working diligently on. You know, we've had multiple inquiries into potential food truck pavilions, food truck parks, you know, at scale, you know, in commercial property. And we're a little bit, you know, behind the eight ball in Pensacola. You know, we have surrounding areas, surrounding communities that already have things on the books like this. And I'm a big believer in supporting and advocating for food truck businesses because, you know, I can speak to it as well as anybody, you know, knowing how expensive it is to be an entrepreneur and trying to become, you know, whether you're a chef or, you know, you want to open your own restaurant one day, you can't just snap your fingers and go get 5,000 square feet on Palafox. You know, that's a difficult lift. And so, you know, there is a lot of, it's really like an incubator for a food, really the personality of food in a city as well as for small businesses. So we're looking for opportunities to be able to foster that. I think that's a good thing for all of us. So you know, what we're ultimately looking at is a uniform, formal opportunity to have multiple food trucks. But that comes with rules and regulations. And I mean, ours, for example, is going to propose that you have a permanent restroom facility. It couldn't just be, you know, 4 trucks in a parking lot and a porta potty that's there permanently. You know, that it would really be an investment, right, as a whole. But as I said, this is something that many communities are doing, including communities surrounding us right now that are, you know, are a little bit ahead of us on. So, you know, our office has taken some initiative and kind of listened to our citizens where we've had multiple inquiries about this. You know, is this something that we can do? We just don't have anything on the books. So, that's what we're looking into, and so we're kind of running that through for discussion. Like I said, not for any kind of vote, but you know, to just make sure we're dotting our I's on and making sure that all makes sense.
I guess in the past when the city's tried to do kind of open up food trucks in the city and it's kind of slowly made progress on it, but do you think it's been kind of a contentious issue when it comes to city council and everything? I guess do you think that seeing what the other communities around us have done, do you think that's changed, maybe open up better opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we evolve year over year all the time. The most shining example I have is when I was the lead staff member for Mayor Robinson's transition team in 2019. Affordable housing wasn't even one of the categories, and that's not because it wasn't a pressing issue the way it is today. You know, I mean, that's 4 years later, 5 years later, it becomes one of our most pressing. So, you know, things evolve, and you know, obviously we understand, especially in the downtown commercial core, that not only do we think that this is a good opportunity for entrepreneurship and a good opportunity for really just the food program, so to speak, in our city, you know, to be able to cultivate, you know, food in our city. I think, you know, we're certainly paying mind and understanding that the informality of, you know, parking in a parking space or right across from a restaurant, some of those things that have been these hurdles before, we think that this could have some double win value in the fact that, hey, if we have these dedicated, you know, and it comes with all the things that you would want, you know, that has buffers, that, you know, you're going to go into the sewer. I mean, it's truly a permanent, not just find a piece of commercial property, put some gravel down and roll some trucks in there. It's going to be, you know, something that you know, looks good and is there to stay, you know, so to speak. So, you know, I think getting more formalized across the board in this and knowing that this is where the United States is going, where the Southeast region is going. I mean, you can't go to a city anywhere now and not see, you know, something like this. And so, you know, I'm excited to see what the feedback is on it. And, you know, I think things at times change, you know, and I think people get that this is you know, this is here to stay, and I think there's a lot of value to it. And the more we can formalize it and we can have more clarity around how they operate, I think that's only a good thing for all of us. Anything else? All right. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.